Hello, everyone. I'm Alara, and Maryland with its tranquil tree-lined streets and charming rows of houses is where I call home. My childhood unfolded in this peaceful haven, a time of simple joys and unwavering family bonds. My mother, a woman of quiet grace and boundless warmth, had a smile that could light up even the darkest days. From dawn as she bustled in the kitchen preparing breakfast to the stillness of nightfall, she cherished that small space, her domain where the aroma of love and comfort always lingered. My father, a man of stoic strength and quiet devotion, spoke few words but let his actions speak volumes. He worked tirelessly, his dedication a silent testament to the love he held for our family, ensuring we were always provided for and secure. Our home was modest and unassuming, yet it held a universe of love within its walls. My childhood memories are painted in hues of contentment and joy, a time of idyllic innocence, or so it seemed. But at 15, the world as I knew it crumbled. My mother was taken by an illness that swept through her with sudden ferocity. It happened so swiftly, so unexpectedly, that I barely grasped the reality of her absence before it became an undeniable void. The emptiness that followed was a gaping wound in the fabric of our family. I watched my father succumb to a loneliness that seemed to consume him. Our home, once a haven of laughter and shared moments, now echoed with a silence that was deafening. We carried on. I went to school each morning and returned home each night, the same kitchen, the same simple meals, but the essence of my mother, the warmth of her presence, had vanished, leaving an ache no routine could soothe. Every meal was just the two of us now, father and daughter. Yet an invisible chasm had formed between us, a distance that stretched far beyond the physical space of our house. We were two solitary figures adrift in a sea of shared grief. When I turned 19, a new chapter unfolded, one that brought apprehension and cautious hope. My father, in his quest to rediscover happiness, decided to remarry. The news sent ripples of unease through me. His new wife, Serafina, exuded gentle warmth and kindness that seemed to radiate from her very being. She carried a quiet strength, a resilience that resonated with me. And then there was Julian, Serafina's son, a year younger than me. Quiet and introspective, he had a thoughtful gaze that hinted at hidden depths. From the moment they stepped into our lives, I felt a shift, a subtle rearranging of my familiar world. At first, everything felt awkward and unfamiliar, like navigating a path shrouded in mist. Life had deviated from the predictable rhythm I'd grown accustomed to. Adjusting to this new dynamic was a dance of hesitant steps and cautious exploration. Julian and I, both teenagers grappling with our own uncertainties, tiptoed around each other. We were two souls thrown together by circumstance, each seeking our place in this unfamiliar territory. Evenings were often spent in the living room, a shared space where we attempted to forge unity. My father and Serafina would sit on the sofa, discussing work or future plans, their voices a gentle murmur against the soft glow of the television. Julian and I, perched on armchairs, would steal glances at each other, a silent acknowledgement of our shared discomfort. There was kindness in their home, a warmth Serafina effortlessly cultivated, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't quite the family I'd once known. Something was missing, a piece lost forever. Family dinners became stages for cautious exploration. We were four individuals brought together by circumstance, learning to navigate shared life. Beneath the surface normalcy lingered an undercurrent of unease, a subtle dissonance humming in the background. Julian remained quiet but observant with peculiar habits, wordlessly placing choicest morsels on my plate or letting his gaze linger for fleeting moments, gestures both touching and unsettling. My heart would quicken at Julian's approach, disorienting flutter, forbidden attraction, desperately tried suppress, hated unfamiliar territory, unwelcome shift, saw stepbrother become something more, late night long after house fallen silent, heard soft padding footsteps, hallway, slipped room. Usually brief chat, whispered confidence, retreated separate worlds, lingered, sat beside bed, gaze locking, intensity, burned eyes, never seen wrestling, unspoken words, torrent emotions, trapped guarded exterior. The silence between us stretched, heavy with anticipation and laden with unspoken possibilities. Uncertainty washed over me, his presence in my room, the weight of his gaze, the emotions hanging thick in the air. It was a moment charged with significance I couldn't yet understand. Before I could overthink it, I nodded, a silent invitation for him to stay. We sat together in the darkness, enveloped by a quiet that spoke louder than words. Two souls bound by an inexplicable connection, a closeness that defied the boundaries of our newly formed family ties. Truth be told, a fondness for Julian had taken root in me. He was undeniably handsome, with a quiet charisma that drew me in. Yet, I wrestled with my growing attraction, knowing he was, in name, my stepbrother. Guilt occasionally pricked at my conscience, but I brushed it aside, telling myself it was merely the result of sharing a home. We were two young people navigating adolescence under the same roof. It was only natural for a certain closeness to develop. Our rooms were separate yet intrinsically linked, occupying the second floor of the house with only a thin wall between us. My father and Serafina's room lay downstairs. This proximity bred moments of awkward intimacy, the creak of floorboards betraying late-night movements, the shared bathroom where our toiletries mingled. I was a college freshman, he was a high school senior preparing for the next chapter of his life. Amid the mundane routines, an undeniable tension simmered between us. There were evenings when we gravitated toward each other in the living room after school. The soft glow of the television cast long shadows, creating an intimate space where we coexisted in comfortable silence. Neither of us spoke much, yet the air crackled with unspoken awareness. Our interactions carried a weight that defied the conventional sibling bond, a forbidden undercurrent that both thrilled and unnerved me. Over time, I realized my feelings for Julian had grown beyond familial affection. This realization filled me with confusion and guilt, yet I couldn't deny how my heart raced at his mere presence. Every accidental encounter on the stairs, every shared glance across the dinner table held a spark of something more, something I couldn't easily dismiss. Then one tranquil evening, everything shifted. My father and Serafina left for a 5-day trip, leaving Julian and me alone in the house. At first, it felt like an unexpected taste of freedom, a chance to revel in the absence of parental supervision. That night, we settled into the living room with a romantic movie flickering on the screen. Neither of us was particularly invested in the plot, but it provided a comfortable backdrop for our shared solitude. I had prepared snacks: dried squid, a bowl of ripe fruit, and a couple of beers, a small indulgence to celebrate our temporary autonomy. As the movie played, we chatted and laughed softly, filling the quiet house with our voices. Then came a scene that changed everything, a couple entwined in a passionate embrace, their desire palpable on screen. In that moment, as if bound by an invisible thread, we both fell silent. The air thickened with unspoken longing, a shared awareness that mirrored the intimacy unfolding before us. The laughter died down, the light-hearted banter faded, replaced by a heavy tension that hung between us like an invisible barrier had shattered. Julian's gaze lingered on me, his eyes filled with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. A warmth spread through me, unwelcome yet undeniable. I clutched my cold beer can, seeking an anchor in this emotional storm. But before I could fully grasp the gravity of the situation, Julian leaned in. His strong arms pulled me into an embrace as his lips met mine in an urgent kiss, desperate and raw, as if all the unspoken emotions we had harbored came rushing to the surface. My heart pounded against my ribs, a wild symphony of confusion and desire, yet, despite the turmoil in my mind, my body responded instinctively. In the darkness of that quiet room, we crossed a line we could never uncross. The boundaries of familial affection shattered as we surrendered to a passion that had been simmering beneath the surface for far too long. That night became a turning point, an irreversible shift in our relationship. We spent those hours entwined together, our bodies speaking a language words could never express, and all pretense of keeping distance vanished into an intimacy neither of us could deny. The next morning brought no easy answers, only questions about what we had done and where we would go from here. Morning sunlight filtered softly through the curtains as I lay beside Julian, my heart caught between exhilaration and trepidation. The room was unchanged, yet everything felt irrevocably different. We exchanged a silent look, a shared acknowledgement of the profound shift that had occurred. Our lives would never be the same. With my father and Serafina still away, we reveled in our newfound freedom. Our shared meals became intimate rituals, our conversations carried a deeper closeness. Each night, we curled up together on the sofa, watching movies and whispering secrets until our bodies inevitably found their way back to the sanctuary of my bed. For those stolen days, we existed in a bubble, a world where only the two of us mattered. We were young and unburdened by societal expectations, our love burned like a secret flame. But all too soon, reality returned. My parents came home, their cheerful voices shattering the spell we had woven. Julian and I slipped back into our roles as step-siblings without missing a beat, our secret connection remained hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy. Our parents chattered excitedly about their trip while Julian and I exchanged knowing glances across the table, a silent testament to what had changed between us forever. The weight of our shared secret pressed heavily between us, a truth we vowed to guard, a chapter forever concealed from the world. In the months that followed, our encounters settled into a clandestine rhythm. Late nights and empty houses became our sanctuary, moments when Julian would slip into my room and we would lose ourselves in each other. Our forbidden connection was a fragile thing, born in secrecy and nurtured in shadows. By day, we played our parts with strained smiles and measured glances, navigating family life with the precision of actors on a stage. The air between us crackled with unspoken tension, a constant reminder of the line we had crossed. Guilt shadowed me relentlessly, gnawing at my conscience even in the brightest hours. Yet, despite the turmoil, I couldn't bring myself to sever the bond with Julian. Our stolen nights had become an addiction, a dangerous escape from the tangled web of my reality. Desperate for some semblance of control, I secretly began taking birth control pills, clinging to the fragile hope that I could manage the consequences of our affair. It was a thin veil of reassurance, offering only fleeting comfort, but time is indifferent to human struggles. Julian graduated high school and left for college, his departure marking the end of our clandestine nights. The distance between us became a stark reminder of the inevitable change looming over our lives. His absence carved an ache in my chest, a bittersweet longing for a connection that had been as exhilarating as it was destructive. The weight of our shared past settled over me like a stone, an unyielding reminder of the forbidden fruit we had tasted. After my own graduation, I sought a fresh start, a chance to redefine myself beyond the confines of our family's tangled dynamics. I landed a job at a digital company, where routine and stability offered a respite from years of emotional chaos. It was there that I met Ethan. He owned a successful salon and carried himself with calm confidence and genuine warmth. From the moment we met, I felt a sense of security, a safe harbor I had longed for. Our connection was effortless, deepening into a love that felt steady and true. We married, built a home, and welcomed a beautiful child into our lives. My days were filled with a contentment I had never imagined possible. Motherhood and Ethan's unwavering support softened the sharp edges of my past. Yet memories of Julian lingered like faint whispers in the corners of my mind. A quiet guilt tugged at my heart whenever I looked into Ethan's kind eyes. He was a good man deserving of honesty, but fear kept me silent. The question haunted me: would revealing the truth destroy the life we had built together? Or would keeping it forever taint the love we shared? I found myself trapped in a moral quandary, torn between the desire for absolution and the fear of devastating consequences. And so here I stand, seeking guidance, perhaps even forgiveness. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? Would you risk everything for honesty or bury the past to protect the present? The weight of this decision presses heavily on my shoulders, and clarity remains just out of reach.